Yes, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jack Farmer. His name is Andy Rossi, and have we got a show for you, Andy? I'm excited to chat about this movie. Are you excited?
I am, yeah. You seem more excited than usual. I mean, you're usually excited, but you gave a big hello there.
It's because we're not recording at 6 in the morning or whatever we normally do. We're recording at a regular time, and it is kind of a delight. You know, I'm rested, I've eaten, got a chance to work out, as opposed to rolling out of bed and scrambling, going, shoot, we're starting.
Which movie was it?
So I'm excited. This is going to be a fun one, and we have a fun guest as well, so I'm really excited to get into it. Let's not wait any longer. Let's bring on the special guest.
Wow.
Tyler Box coming through with the headphones, with the microphone. How you doing? Thanks for joining us.
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
So I am very eager to chat about this movie with you. I have a feeling we're going to have some interesting comments throughout, but for anyone who's new to the show, for anyone who hasn't heard of this show before and just stumbled across it, it's the Evolution of Movies show. And what we do is we watch a movie and then we chat about it like it's a book club. But we call it the Evolution of Movies because we always pick a movie that came out 1 year after the last movie we watched. So started in 1980, went to 1981, 1982. Now we're all the way up to 2017. Wow. A time when movie theaters had hits like The Shape of Water, A Dog's Purpose, and of course, The Disaster Artist. Oh. But we aren't talking about any of those. Mark. We're talking about Baby Driver, a movie IMDb describes as, after being coerced into working for a crime boss, a young getaway driver finds himself taking part in a heist doomed to fail. Tyler, had you seen this movie before, and what were your thoughts going into it this time around?
I had, I'd only actually seen it in theaters, so it's the first time I've watched it since. But it's definitely one of my favorite genres, the very niche genre of the neo-noir crime thriller with the loner who falls in love. And I going into it with Edgar Wright's directing style is really interested to see how he'd interpret that, because I feel like it's not necessarily a genre I would expect from him.
Yeah, I like that you say that this is a niche genre you love, because I love it too. I love crime genres. I love, even though there's some stereotypical kind of parts in this movie, I love it. You're the loner that falls in love. I love that. How do you not love that? That's great.
Yeah.
So it checked a bunch of boxes for me, and I was really excited to go back and view it. Well, I saw it in theaters too, and I remember it was one of those movies that I kind of left, like, all the songs were stuck in my head, and like you kind of wanted to dance where you walked, like Baby does.
Definitely.
Just a cool movie. Andy, what were your thoughts going into it this time around? I know you've seen it before. I know you liked it when you saw it before, because I remember your social media commentary when it came out. And so I want you to tell me about what you thought about it going into it this time around, but also, this is where I play a little game, Tyler. What's going to happen is Andy is going to try to guess the Rotten Tomatoes score, and then you are going to have to guess whether or not the actual score is higher or lower than what Andy guessed.
All right.
So, Andy, start us off.
Well, yeah, I mean, I did see, kind of like Tyler, I saw it last in the theater. I don't think I've seen it since then. So it was, for me, it was great to go back and check out this movie. And like you said, Jack, I definitely, like, after this movie, I was in my kitchen grabbing stuff and like dancing around, trying to shut the cabinets cool. And yeah, I definitely can't pull off what Baby can pull off. I enjoyed it. I don't remember if critics liked it or not. I have one friend, I remember his girlfriend, or now wife, was like, I hate that movie. I'm like, how can you hate that movie? So maybe not everybody loved it. So I would personally put it pretty high. I'd put it like in the 90s, but I'm going to go I'll go 82.
82, still solid, still good movie, still liked. But Tyler, do you think that critics felt the same way? Is it higher or lower than 82%? I will say, Andy nailed it one time. He's gotten it.
That's what I had. One time.
40, maybe.
Let's make it twice.
I was
honestly,
close last week.
I was feeling more like 87. I feel like a little higher, but 82 is, I think, I would agree with that. But I have a feeling it's a little bit higher.
Rotten Tomatoes has this movie sitting at 92%, putting it right up there with Ghostbusters and with Mad Max Fury Road,
Indiana
and
Jones.
Indiana Jones, all the other big ones. So
Wow.
critics loved this movie. Now, I went to social media, I went to Twitter, and I asked people what they thought of this movie. So just to get a quick turnaround, we got at E_Rob88 says the movie's overrated. Zach Varda said, for better or worse, all I really remember is loving its use and choice of music. McKinley Pierce said he thoroughly enjoyed it. David Won't Shut Up said, one of the great openings of all time. It's mid after that, but the opening chase scene is fire. Darwin Finch says, great film with a great soundtrack. George Moses said he didn't like it. And friend of the show, Flobo Boyce, wraps it all up by saying it kind of lingered at the end of the party too long, but it was a fresh approach that I thought was fun.
That's his guy. That's Flobo's guy. He loves Scott Pilgrim, right?
Yep. Big Scott Pilgrim fan. That's one of his favorite movies. So interesting takes. I will say I love this movie. We'll get into it. I think that this is a watch it once kind of movie, though.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk about it as we go through. But as we get into the movie, before we start really peeling the potatoes that are this movie, I want to say thank you to everyone who is listening on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Please leave us a 5-star review if you are. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit the little bell that lets you know when new episodes go up.
Oh yeah, do that.
Like, comment, share this with your friends, subscribe, leave a little comment if letting us know what you thought of this movie. By the way, I'd love to know your thoughts as well in the comment section. But for now, let's just dive into this movie. You guys ready to do this?
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
All right. A gang of highly suspicious looking bank robbers head into a bank while Baby rocks out in his car. The robbers come out, pile into the car, and the police are hot on their tails as we get a car chase, dodging traffic, road spikes, and more. But it's blending in with other red cars and switching spots under a bridge before sneaking into an underground parking lot that finalizes the getaway. Baby dances down the street and picks up some coffee, and the gang divides the money while Doc explains who Baby is and what his deal really is. The Punisher gives Baby a hard time because Baby doesn't have to get his hands dirty. Everyone goes their separate ways, and Baby gives the legendary words, "One more job," as Doc gives him a pair of driving gloves. Tyler, tell us about this world that we are going to live in for 2 hours and the characters that inhabit it.
It's funny that you had said that you think it's a movie that you watch once and then you're kind of done with it, because I did notice watching it the second time, it felt so much longer than I think it really is.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I feel like I've been watching this for 2.5 hours. And then I checked, it's only like, I think it comes in under like an hour 50.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, I do really enjoy seeing this genre taken on by someone like Edgar Wright, because it has all of his like signature stuff, the opening one shot, which I also think his quick like snapping and editing works so well in these types of action sequences. It's so clear cut about what's going on. I don't feel like you're ever lost in any of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I do say something else that's different from, like Drive, La Samurai, Thief, the other movies that associate with this type of genre, is I feel like there's a lot more dialogue in Baby Driver. I feel like a lot of these movies tend to lean on the edge of like just building atmosphere, whereas I feel like there's a lot more actual ongoing discussions between the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And the characters in the discussion, I'm glad you mentioned that, because Andy, I want to kick this to you. I want to just the use of the characters all being so interesting, so different, but all having so much individual character themselves. And you see a lot of that in this dialogue where I don't know, and I don't want to say too much, so I want you to take it away, but I love how they're all strong characters. None of them are the kind of characters that back down, but they're still different and they still like argue. It's just an interesting dynamic that I really love about these kind of movies.
Yeah, I love what you said at the beginning, and I was thinking that exact thing about the characters is they look like bank robbers. They come out, they got like black trench coat. John Hamm looks so cool in this movie. I love his hair. I love his 5 o'clock shadow. He's just making out the whole time. Like his character is so great. But it's funny because you got him, like you said, with Jon Bernthal, the Punisher, and they both just look like these badass dudes where like for sure I would I'd be in the bank and being like, I think these guys are gonna rob this place. Like it's definitely like pretty obvious.
Not subtle.
But I love the beginning of this movie. I really think it might be my favorite part, just because it really kicks off and you're like, what is this? This is so unique. It's bank robbers. He's in the car. I don't know what song that is in the beginning, but I love it. It's just such a fun song. And then like his driving, I mean, any car chase, I'm in for it. So just starting off this movie, I feel like you're like, I'm in for this. I don't know what this is, but I'm down.
Yeah, what I love I always think what's important about these kind of movies is this is a group you want to hang out with. Like, you want to be a part of this, not hang out with, like, they seem dangerous. I don't want to hang out with them because they're dangerous, but like every one of them, like, you want to be cool enough to hang out with this group. They're very different movies, but very Pulp Fiction like you want to hang out with John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson. You want to be cool enough I want to be cool enough to hang out with Darling and Buddy, and I don't think they ever gave the Punisher a name. I didn't catch that, but
Griff.
Like Griff, like Back to the Future. Yeah.
Oh, Griff. So you want to be cool enough to hang out with these people, and you're right, Jon Hamm. Like, I'm so used to seeing him as like the buttoned up suit, corporate guy, and you see him with like the hair slicked back and I love this guy's gonna kill somebody. He's so awesome. I don't know why he hasn't done more movies like that.
And he's like a cyborg. I mean, we'll get to that later. Man, they did not want to get rid of him.
Will not go down.
Which is interesting. We'll talk about that because I love how they build him as the friendliest of the group until the end, and then he's the scariest of the group.
Yeah.
But Tyler, I want to talk a bit about how this movie uses music so much, and I think that's the first thing people think of when they think of this movie. That opening song, by the way, Andy, it's on my workout playlist. I couldn't tell you what it's called.
Bell Bottoms, I think it's called.
Is that what it's called?
I think it's called Bell Bottoms.
Yeah, that sounds right.
It's on the workout playlist. I don't know. Is it? But Tyler, the music, obviously, it's such a part of this, even to the way Baby dances as he walks around. But I noticed in this scene when he's getting the coffee, even along the street, it references the song. Like when he walks by the trumpet store, it plays trumpets in the song, and it says like "slide" on the wall as he's walking by it. And then it's talking to me about how music is like part of this movie.
Yeah, I mean, Edgar Wright's music, I feel like, is always so strong. I kind of feel like Baby Driver is like a part of the unofficial musical trilogy of his with Scott Pilgrim and Last Night in Soho, where the plot really revolves around it. One of my favorite things I noticed on this watch of Baby Driver is the way that all the bullets, all the fire, like gun sound effects, are to the beat of the music. Yes. And same with all the action, it's all on beat, which I remember reading somewhere that he had to storyboard really intensely all of the action sequences and get the timing down just right in order for each shot to line up with the beat, which is incredible.
Yeah, that beginning with the lyrics on the wall was just so impressive. Even like the choreography of it, he had to stop at that exact moment, do the trumpet sounds and stuff. It was just very cool.
It very much felt like they made the soundtrack first and then built a movie around the soundtrack.
That's what it seemed like, yeah.
Which was so cool to see. And it was a great soundtrack too. Like, it was all interesting. It was all like not overused songs, but still sounded cool. Random, by the way, totally unintentional. 2 nights ago, I watched Last Night in Soho. I wasn't even planning on the connection. I was just like, oh, wow, fun stuff.
Should we talk about that one? No, I'm kidding.
No, let's change this entire show. Everyone's gonna be like,
split it up. I don't think I've seen it. I think I've watched it one night on HBO Max, and I fell asleep for part of it, then woke up. So I think I missed some stuff in between. So definitely wouldn't have a lot to say.
Right? Yeah, you can fill in the gaps. So at Baby's apartment, he uses sign language to communicate with Joe as he dances around and makes a sandwich. Joe sees Baby on TV for robbing the bank, and he doesn't like it. That night, Baby reveals he's been recording conversations with the gang, but it's to remix them to a beat. At a diner, Baby meets a waitress, and they chat and flirt, and I'm getting a feeling that there's a connection between these two. But while Baby is smitten, he's also got a job to do. A new team is put together, and they're all characters, but again, no one trusts each other. Doc explains how and why Baby owes him money before explaining the plan. It starts and they argue about masks before the robbery goes a little bad and people are shot. During the escape, a hero tries to stop them, and it makes the getaway a little rougher than it was supposed to be. They shake the hero and carjack a lady before getting back into the parking structure and into their other vehicles. But JD left his shotgun behind. JD is killed, and Baby has to dispose of the car with JD's dead body in it, triggering memories of his mom and dad, particularly of his mom singing and giving him an iPod. This is we get another Andy. We get obviously another chase scene in here, but this is also where we're starting to learn a little bit more about who Baby is with the Joe at the apartment, and later we'll find the name Debbie at the diner, and just kind of figure out who he is.
I could have gotten more Joe. He's so good in this movie. They're like dynamic together. I could have done with, felt really bad for him at the end. He just made me sad. But yeah, their like relationship's great. And I think, what's the actor's name? Baby Driver, Ansel
Elgort.
I think he learned sign language for this role because he's on point with all that stuff. I thought that was great. I liked him dancing around, making was it like a grilled cheese sandwich or whatever it was. I just really love their like dynamic together. Is really great.
Yeah, this was Tyler. This is where a small thing I noticed is this is where Bats, Jamie Foxx's character, says the moment you catch feelings is the moment you catch a bullet. And we knew that he obviously was starting to have some kind of feelings for Debbie. But what I liked about this is in conjunction with that, now when he's getting coffee, he's bumping into people. He doesn't quite have the same rhythm that he used to. Jamie Foxx was kind of right in what he was saying.
Yeah, I feel like all of his behavior becomes more erratic too. But also Jamie Foxx's character from the start, Bats, is probably, I think, the most interesting character in my opinion. He really drives it. I think the tension for me, every scene he's in.
Yeah, I love the shirt he's got too. What is it, like a King of Hearts or something like that? It's just like a giant playing card on his sweater.
And his bat tattoos up the
yeah.
It's every character in this movie I felt like you could have peeled off and made a separate movie about. And that's what I loved about this movie is I would totally be down to see Buddy and Darlene on a side adventure, or Bats and where Bats came from, or Griff and what Griff's story is, or like they all just have interesting, like, who are these people? And again, they're all just, no one backs down from the other one. No one takes anything from anyone else. And I loved even just the small like cameo from Flea and No Nose. And he was like, well, he said something like, it's a no asking no knows about the nose.
It's a no question. Yeah.
I wonder where Doc found all these people, by the way.
See, like, that would be
Craigslist.
Fun to see. Just Craigslist, yeah.
Craigslist ad. And it's one thing I didn't notice until I read some trivia on IMDb was that because I thought it was kind of like not abrupt, I guess is the wrong word, but how he says to the waitress, how Baby says to the waitress, "You are so beautiful," and she's just like, "Thanks," or whatever. I'm like, it seemed like, I don't know, that seemed like a big line to just throw out there, but he was watching TV earlier, flipping through the channels with Fight Club and Monsters Inc. and there's something else on there, and that's all those lines came back in the movie. I'd never noticed that before.
Yeah, a lot of his dialogue is recycled stuff that he's either heard on the TV or another character said to him, and then he says it to another one later. And I think that's really interesting that he's kind of like the music, just repeating what he hears.
Because he's a big phony, just copying everything else.
But that song stuck in my head. It's in my head now. What was he slow? What was he slow?
I thought it was interesting that he has all this stuff. I thought it was a fun little play too, that he has all this stuff to make music and stuff that would probably be pretty annoying to anyone you're living with, but Joe's deaf, so it doesn't bother him.
It's a good living situation. Yeah.
Just another fun little play on ears and hearing, and that being a thing. And I also love that, like, Baby in this scene, he can't start the heist until the song is at the right spot.
Love that.
It's just like, wait, I got to start over. Because there's this part of you that's like, what are you doing? And then there's also this part of you that's like, everyone kind of does that. Like if you're at the gym and like, the workout, like you wait for the beat to drop before you start lifting, or something.
Yeah.
It's
Or like with like wrestling or something, you got to wait for that part to enter on your or like fighting. You know, you want to wait for your or at weddings, the grand entrance, you got to wait for the beat drop.
Yeah, so it's all. I thought that was really really fun, and just a little small thing too. I like that he was looking at the newspaper and it talked about how the string of robberies, are they connected? Just a very subtle directing thing of letting us know that okay, there's been a lot of them. The heat is on. People are catching on. There's an issue. Heat. You know what I mean? It's not just. It's a very quick way of letting us, the viewer, know that like stakes are starting to get higher. If this was Grand Theft Auto, a few more stars are starting to pop up on the screen there.
And this part that you just talked about was my favorite part as far as comedy. The Michael Myers masks, so funny. It's just so clever. And I just love how he doesn't understand that he didn't get it right. He's like, yeah, he's like, you're supposed to get Michael Myers a Halloween mask. These are Michael Myers Halloween masks.
It was such a great, the whole thing was such a great who's on first situation. That was really fun. And by the way, though, I don't know. I looked it up. They were in Atlanta. People in Atlanta are wild. I don't know if I saw a bank robbery. There's no way I'd be chasing after them in my truck, shooting at them and like going off road and stuff. Like
that guy. I needed to know more about that guy. He had a whole bunch of artillery.
When they said the Punisher was in this movie, I thought it was Griff, but no, I guess it was this guy because he had like machine guns. I was like, what the heck is this guy doing?
But that didn't really talk about that guy. Like that would have been my thing. I would be like, so anyways, this guy comes out of like they never even really like mentioned that guy again.
Yeah, it was just they kind of that happens.
Oh, it's Atlanta.
It's a hot Atlanta for a reason.
I remember watching the first time. I kept expecting Griff to come back or something because when he leaves, he says, "If you don't see me again, it's because I'm dead." And then you never see him again. And the whole movie, I was wondering this. I was like, "Do we get any hint that he dies or anything happens to him?" I didn't catch anything.
Yeah, no, that's true.
But you're right, but that's one of those fun little things that makes you wonder: like, did he die or did he just not get a call back? Because they do say that he uses a different team every time.
Is he dead?
Is he dead? Is he dead? But it also makes it feel like how many people does Doc know? Like it just makes Doc seem like a more connected person with all this. But yeah, I was kind of hoping he'd come back. I looked it up. I think this was before he really became a big name. So I think that's why he probably only had the one. I think it was like just after he was in Daredevil.
Mm-hmm. And can I ask you guys, did you feel strange watching Kevin Spacey?
Yeah, with his nephew.
Yeah, I just kind of was like, could this have been like Christopher Walken? Somebody like.
Yeah, it didn't bother me that much at first, but when his nephew came in for some reason, it was a little bit like, this is weird. Well,
and just how he called him baby all the time. He's like, "Aren't you my baby?" And I'm like,
things that aged poorly.
Yeah.
So speaking of baby goes back to the diner and chats up the waitress again, and she sticks around just for him. Another waitress says baby's mom used to work there. We find out that the waitress's name is Debbie. They head to the laundromat and they learn more about each other. Baby, now having paid his debt to Doc, gets a job delivering pizza, which is just incredible, and takes out Debbie to a swanky restaurant. But Baby doesn't have to pay because Doc is covering the bill. Doc says he has another job and Baby's going to drive for him whether he likes it or not. The next day, Doc sends Baby to case a post office, but the kid he's with seems to do a better job than Baby does. Back at Baby's apartment, Doc makes it clear that he knows everything about Baby, and Baby calls Debbie to say he still wants to leave town with her. Tyler, this is kind of that point in the movie where we see just how deep Baby really is in all this.
Mm-hmm. Like we said earlier, though, with him repeating stuff, I remembered that with the dining is he repeats what Buddy says to Darling, or what they say in the car when he says, it's the finest wining and dining in town. Mm-hmm. Like he doesn't have his own words for it, so he just repeats exactly what they said. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this I think this is really the part where you see kind of the tension rising, and you see how deep he's gotten into this, and that it's really at that point where he's not going to get out.
Did the fact that the waitress and that Debbie and Baby, the fact that they hit it off a little too easy bother you, or was it just like, this is a fun, stylish movie, I'm down?
When I first saw it, I was like I just loved I was very into everything that happened. I'm like, of course she goes for him. It did seem like a little too easy to me. Yeah, she just kind of like starts flirting with him right away. He flirts back, and that's it, But who knows? Maybe that's true love.
I guess love at first sight. Yeah, because she comes on like he's like, "Wow, you're beautiful," and she's like, "Yeah, let's run away together." Cool.
Yeah, it seemed very quick.
It's like that trope that you see in those movies, like to the extreme. I feel like because it's always the loner criminal finds the waitress or whatever. But yeah, it was kind of like she sang, and it was like, all right, yeah, they're in love. Sure, why not?
Right. Right.
You know what I noticed this time around too that bugged me was especially like Jamie Foxx's character, and I think all of them, all the hoodlums, they really had a problem with his music. They were like so angry that he was wearing like earbuds all the time. They're like, "What's with this guy? Was he some sort of idiot?" I'm like, he's just listening to the music. Like it's not like he's doing anything crazy.
These people hate music. They hate headphones.
There's one thing I hate. It's music and joy.
Yeah, it's just kind of odd to me.
It was. I think what made it weird is Griff does it first, and then Bats does it. And they're so aggressive about it. It's not just hey, what's this guy's deal? It's like, how dare you listen an iPod? Who do you think you are, Steve Jobs? What are you doing?
Yeah.
It was just that was very, very weird. But I guess it was just I think it did help to show that he's an outsider and he's not really one of them, even though I feel like you could just look at everyone else and him and know right away he does not belong with this group.
I love one of the lines Darling says too. I wrote it down. She says, "It was real romantic when you stabbed that guy."
And he's like, which one? The one that did this, or the one that looked at you funny?
Yeah.
The last one. Yeah, that was pretty. What if Baby stabbed someone for the waitress because they heard that was what you were supposed to do? I have a different viewpoint on Baby now that I realize he's just a copycat.
Just doing what everyone else does.
He probably doesn't even like driving. He probably just saw a driver one day and was like, I guess that's what I'm going to do. But
could be.
But this is where
wait, we got to talk about Sam though, the little boy.
Oh yeah. Take it away. I forgot Sam.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that kid was great. Like kind of like the Joe character. I could have seen the nephew again. He was kind of fun. Like he was like diabolical.
There were a lot of characters in this, and I don't know if it was just to create more of a world for this movie, or if it was I don't know. There's a lot of characters that we didn't really need Sam in this movie, and the movie would have been just fine. I felt like in a lot of ways too, we didn't even need Baby's parents in this movie. Like I feel like if you took them out completely, the movie still kind of holds water. Like it doesn't really. I don't know if they developed enough of his character for me to feel like they were necessary. Even, I mean, Joe grounded him and gave him a little bit of like, watch out for these guys if they find where you live. But I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of stuff. Even the mixtapes he was making didn't really matter. It was a slight plot device, but at one point, but it was very.
Yeah, I was just thinking about Joe. Joe says, "I don't want that money." I just thought it was funny. Like he sees that he's hiding the money in the floorboards, and he just leaves it. He's like, maybe I'll just leave it there. Maybe it'll come back to me later. I don't know. I'll
Joe
pretend
just wants
I don't
to eat
want
peanut
it.
butter sandwiches and watch TV. I can understand. I relate.
Yeah, actually, that's how Joe had living the life.
Yeah, money on your floorboards, peanut butter sandwiches,
and movies. Monsters Inc. playing on repeat.
Yeah.
So we move on, and another gang is put together. This one, a combination of the two we had seen before. They all chat and get to know each other and bond. Bats hates it. After hearing the plan, they grab some snacks at a gas station, and Bats robs it. They go to grab some weapons from the butcher and have a fun banter before Bats starts shooting everybody. Bats says they were cops, so they blow the place up. Bats continues to push buttons and now wants to go to the diner Debbie works at. Debbie and Baby pretend to not know each other while Bats acts like he knows everybody else and saying what their backstory must be and pushes Debbie's buttons. Bats is about to kill Debbie, but Baby stops him. They leave, and Baby leaves a note showing that he's still on to get out of town. Doc wants to know why the butcher was killed and says that the job is over because the butcher really was a cop, and now the cops will be looking for them. The gang wants to do it, however, so it's still on, and Baby recorded the whole thing. Baby tries to leave at 2 a.m. as promised, but both Buddy and Bats catch him, and Bats finds the recorded conversation. They find the tapes that he made and find out Debbie knows Baby, and they want a new driver, but Baby insists to do the job. Tyler, this is where the movie started to feel like it was getting a little overcomplicated for what it was trying to be. Now, it wasn't overly long. I always say you have up to 2 hours to fill it up with whatever you want. After 2 hours, you need to start justifying everything. So I'm not super mad, but it did feel like this is where the movie started to get a little bit like, do we need the gas station robbery? Do we need the butcher? Do we need
little hat on a hat? It was There were like 4 tense scenes in a row, and I was like, I think you could really just play it off with 1 or 2 of that tension, like especially the diner. I think was my favorite scene because you could feel the tension of like, oh, this that, because especially after watching Bat's character be absolutely maniacal, which I also for a long time I couldn't see him as anyone except for his character from Horrible Bosses, especially because Kevin Spacey's in it, and so I just motherfucker Jones. Yeah. And so for a while I couldn't take him seriously, but yeah, by the diner scene, that tension is definitely there, but it does seem that is definitely the part where the movie feels like, okay, I feel like we should be wrapping it up now, right?
Yeah, I do love, he had a line there where he says, you commit crime to support your drug habit. I do drugs to support my crime habit.
Yeah.
But Andy, this is where I do kind of like how they don't tell us the backstory of the people in this gang, but Bats kind of fills it in for us. And they basically say that, he basically, I commit crimes. This is what I like to do. And you kind of fills in that maybe Buddy and Darlene, they're just weekend warriors when it comes to this kind of stuff.
That was great. Yeah, like Tyler said, that scene is just so, scary because you don't know what's going to happen. And poor Deborah in the middle of all that, she's so sweet. It's kind of like, she doesn't really get what she's gotten herself into getting in with Baby. But I do love the Darling and Buddy relationship. He says something when there's that big shootout. He says, "You got my wife shot. I don't like that." That was so funny.
That scene, the diner scene, was actually one of my low-key favorite parts of the movie. I think the opening chase is my favorite because that's just great chasing. But the diner, I think, as far as just the characters and the tension and the acting, is all great. Not to belabor a point, but I do feel like robbing the gas station and having the whole butcher thing sort of took the thunder out of it, because I felt at that point I was already like, okay, these guys are just getting into trouble everywhere. The butcher, while I liked him, felt a little overdone. Like, I get it, you're a butcher and you're calling everything different pieces of pork. Like, but it felt like, Tyler, am I being nitpicky by saying I think that was like that's 5 minutes too long?
No, I think that's kind of what I meant though when I said like Edgar Wright's style I wouldn't necessarily put it in this type of movie, because those jokes were always like very like Cornetto trilogy, Hot Fuzz almost. And so sometimes that tonal shift definitely like the butcher being a little overdone, like that feels like a character that would have fit in Hot Fuzz. Yes. Or Shaun of the Dead or something. And so it's a little unexpected, but it's like every now and then the movie kind of reminds you like, oh, this is Edgar Wright.
Right. Yeah, it's very true. I do, to give it a plus side, I do again feel like they did a good job of building the world. Like, it doesn't feel like this is just a couple characters that we're watching. I feel like there's a world, a criminal underworld, something that John Wick did very well, where it's not just it isn't just one person. There's an actual, like, if Baby leaves, crime will still continue and all that stuff will still happen. So I do like it for that reason.
I thought it was funny too when they find his cassette tape when he's sneaking out, and then I think Jamie Foxx punches him in the face, and then he's out cold. They go all the way to Joe's house. They get all the cassette tapes. They come back to their little hangout, and then Baby just comes to. I'm like, from one punch?
Yeah, it's Jamie Foxx.
I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, he hits really hard. That's what it is. I don't know how
guess
long
so.
you're supposed to be knocked out for. I guess if you watch like UFC and stuff, guys get knocked out and they're kind of like coming to a few minutes later. But I don't know. I've never been punched that hard because I'm a tough guy.
I just thought it was funny. I'm like, man, they had a lot of time while he was out.
There was another thing that happened that didn't matter. Is it kind of mattered, but it felt like you didn't need to do it. Was the baby fantasizing about driving off with Debbie, like it was the 50s.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
Still saying again. I'm nitpicking here, but I remember I watched that, and I get it does tie in at the end, but it's also very like loose. Like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, it was and
Kind of feels like a reshoot. Like they were like,
Yeah.
let's throw these two in.
Let's
Why
throw
not?
this
You
in
know?
there.
Yeah.
and you're right about like the butcher stuff, because in the end that didn't even really matter, because he's like, they were cops, and Kevin Spacey says, I know.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Which
all right.
you know, it's I say it is a little like loose ends, but it kind of fits with the genre, I guess. You know, with all the twists and turns and
Mhm.
and you know the kind of the red herrings and stuff. I will say Kevin Spacey's character, his turn, Doc's turn, is probably one of my one of the most unexpected, like different tropes, you know, or different from the tropes of that genre. Because
Oh yeah.
typically, you know, like in Drive, you know, you
Mhm.
have the typical guy who's in charge of the criminal who, you know, comes back to kill him, even though he's like a son to me, you know, and so
Yeah.
that was like a good unexpected difference.
Yeah, and we'll definitely talk about that because that was a that was very that surprised me a lot. And so we go back and it's time for the job at the post office, and Baby tries to warn the post office employee he met earlier, but it just gets a cop killed. Bats is about to shoot Baby when he won't drive away, so Baby impales him on a pipe. We now
Crazy.
get a shootout in the streets. Baby runs to a mall and changes his outfit, but the police are right behind him. Eventually, Baby gets back in a car, and Darling and Buddy run into Baby, and the shootout continues, but Darling doesn't make it. So Buddy goes ballistic and goes after the cops and Baby and destroys Baby's iPod. Now, Baby has to carjack a woman, but doesn't have his music to help. So he heads back home and helps Joe and grabs all the cash he's been stashing. Baby gets out of the apartment just in time and drops off Joe at an old folks' home with some instructions of how to take care of him and tells Debbie he is on his way. Now, before we get into this final act of the movie, Andy, every great heist movie needs a good street shootout.
Yeah, this was great. This was, I mean, aside from the beginning of the film, I loved the on foot, like jumping down the escalators, going down the other way, going through. And I thought once he changed his outfit, the cops would be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But they did make it more realistic, where they're like,
The jean
no, yeah,
jacket
you
and
just
the
got different
baseball hat,
sunglasses
yeah.
on. Yeah, it's like, no, we
Not
clearly see
enough.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what a great chase scene. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, you don't get a whole lot of good on foot chase scenes in movies anymore, and it was a little parkour, but was still kind of cool. That was cool to see too. I say it begrudgingly, it was a little parkour because I was thinking, who can
Seen
do
it
that?
around.
Like, when did he learn to parkour in the middle of all of his driving and stuff? But you just kind of he does it in a way that you don't feel like he's overly talented at this kind of stuff. He's just very good at it. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah,
but
he's really fast.
but we also see, Tyler, that he's a good guy. That he's like he says he's sorry to the lady as he's stealing the car.
Yeah.
He's still got a heart of gold.
He throws her purse and takes time to find a good radio station.
That was funny. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it does make you realize that it's a reminder that he needs the music. It's not that he likes it, but he actually needs
Mhm.
to hear the music there. This job, they in the synopsis, Tyler, they say this is a destined to fail or doomed to fail job. It wasn't doomed to fail. Baby just messed it up.
Yeah.
That's like he could have just done the job, and then he could have said, "Hey, Debbie, we're gonna leave the day after I do this."
Yeah, like there was no he was the one who made it destined to fail because he was the one who turned, you know, because typically in these you know, you see these characters, you think, oh, is Bat's gonna turn, is Buddy gonna turn? It ended up being him, the good guy.
Yeah. Andy, was Bat's death surprising to you? I mean, obviously it happened fast, so surprising that, but I thought he was going to be the big bad one at the end. Did it shock you that he was the first to go down?
Yes, absolutely. I was not expecting John Hamm to turn into the T-1000 at the end and just I mean, it's so funny when Darling dies that Buddy now is like, ah, like
Unhinged.
like goes insane after that. But I'm glad they killed Jamie Foxx the way they did, because it was definitely like, oh shit, like, you know, I was not, especially that way. I wasn't expecting it like that.
I think we've all seen pipes and stuff off the back of cars and thought of that at some point to a
Yeah.
degree too.
Final Destination. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
But Tyler, I felt Andy said it was funny because he's just heartless, but I felt a little sad when Darling got shot. I was like, oh no, not
Oh,
Darling.
Darling. No, I didn't say Darling. I said when Jamie Foxx.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, yeah, when she goes down, I mean, I expected Buddy to go down too. But then it does make sense because once they take Jamie Foxx, once they take Bats out of the equation, it was like, oh yeah, there's no real bad guy anymore. It's just the cops after him. So yeah, Buddy or Darling going down is, I think, heartbreaking. But yeah, I remember audibly gasping in the theater when, even this time, I think second time, even though I knew it was coming, when he slams into it and just like, oh shit, you know.
Yeah,
it's visceral. Yeah.
but it was just a great way to do. I do like that he had to use the car in pretty much every person he killed to kill somebody. Like, that was his weapon. I mean, he used a gun a little bit, but for the most part, the cars were his weapon. And I like that Buddy went ballistic after this, because it felt like he had a reason. Like, not only did this go wrong, not only am I probably like not going to be able to go back to my Wall Street job, but now my girlfriend's dead. I've lost everything, and I'm taking everyone down with me. It felt like I believed it, but also I felt like I believed it in a way that was like, he was cool to you, baby. You really messed this up. Like, he was actually like friendly to you. You're talking about Queen. You were connecting him with music. You were both drivers before. He said he used to drive. And so it felt kind of like it was a surprise that he was the crazy one. I don't know. I think when you have hair like that, you gotta be the main bad guy.
At least Darling,
when you look that worn out and pale and sweaty the entire movie. Yeah.
That's one of those haircuts. I hate that haircut because it's one of those haircuts I'd see and go, I bet that looks sick. And then I'd get it and I'd look like an idiot. You'd be like, Jack, what are you doing? Like, oh, I want to look like John Hamm. Who doesn't, Jack?
Yeah.
Anyways,
Dreamboat.
So Baby gets to the diner, but Buddy is there waiting for him. And just as he's about to shoot Debbie, the police show up to use the bathroom. After a quick distraction from another waitress, Baby gets Buddy's gun and shoots him. Baby takes off, but Buddy isn't dead. Baby steals another car and heads over to Doc to get the tape of his mom back. Doc agrees to help Baby, but the butcher's guys show up and Doc shoots them to help Baby. But Buddy is back and he runs over Doc. When Buddy tries to run over Baby, Baby leapfrogs the car and gets into one of his own, and the two go through the parking structure until Baby is able to switch cars and eventually push Buddy over the side of the building, or so we thought. Buddy blows out Baby's ears before going to kill Debbie. Baby grabs the gun, shoots Buddy's leg, and Buddy falls over the edge onto the car and dies in an explosion. Baby wakes.
So we think.
The explosion, yeah. Crawls out.
Just keeps going. And so anyways, Baby wakes up in a car with Debbie driving, listening to Baby's mom sing. The cops find them, though, and stop them. Debbie wants to run, but Baby stops her and gives himself up. Baby goes to jail, even though Debbie, the post office employee, and others try to testify in his defense. He still gets 25 years with possible parole after 5 of them. His real name is Miles, and eventually he gets out, and Baby and Debbie go for a ride in their sick car. Tyler, this is where, again, it feels like the ending was a little overthought. I feel like there's a little few. I like essentially what we get. I like that Debbie and Baby end up together. I like the play on the fact that his real name is Miles.
Miles Prower.
Which is
his last name is Prower.
Oh gosh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, miles per hour.
Wow. Little heavy-handed, but
okay.
Little heavy, but it's still fun. But like, this is again where it was like, I don't know. I felt like there was just so much. I feel like I would have rather the car explodes and they ride off into the sunset.
Yeah, it does feel a little like a little overdone almost. I was expecting a lot more of a, open-ended kind of, especially because I feel like that fits the tone of the rest of the movie, is it kind of being an open-ended ending. But yeah, they definitely tie it all up overly tied, really.
Yeah, I don't know, Andy. I felt kind of crummy knowing he had to go to jail for at minimum 5 years. I was like, oh, that's not.
Well, I got a question then, because I almost thought it was like a dream sequence at the end that he got out. Do we know for sure that he got out and they like rode off together? What
Maybe
happened
you're right,
for
because
sure?
it looked just like his previous dream sequence. So
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure
Yeah.
if that's
Maybe he
what
never got
happened.
off the bridge. We don't.
And you
Yeah.
know what a jerk. He took the keys out and threw them in the water. I'm like, how is she gonna get home?
yeah, he didn't even think about her. And look, I'm sure they had a connection, but you're in jail for 5 years. After about 6 months, I have a feeling Debbie's like, you know what? I didn't even really know this guy.
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing here? I think
Yeah. She's gonna meet Punisher at the diner and be like, hey, who's this guy?
And how did she get this car? She's driving all over the country, and a waitress at a diner. How does she afford that car? Not important, but
Unanswered questions.
these are things I wag my fingers at.
I did like their scene. Speaking of the diner, perfect song. I thought it's Barry White playing
Mhm.
John Hamm just at the what do you call that? It's not really a bar. Is it a bar?
I
I
think
think
counter.
you called the bar.
Just
I
the
think.
counter. Yeah.
Counter. Yeah.
I just like that. Like he's got the gun underneath the newspaper and dumb cop walks by. I just like that whole setup there because it's definitely like some nice tension. And it leads to, I thought, another funny line where they steal that car from those two kind of like stoner guys. He's like, I'm gonna shoot you. And she's like, he literally did 2 minutes ago or whatever.
Yeah. It was all things. I know I'm being a little critical and saying, why did they do this? They didn't need that, but it was a fun ride. And Tyler, you talked about it, and I want you to kind of elaborate on it. The Doc helping Baby in the end, because even after he started helping, I was like, oh, he's just setting him up. Something's going to happen. But it was kind of a feel good moment that Doc actually followed through and took care of this kid.
Yeah, I think that is like one of those tropes that Edgar Wright kind of turned on its head, because I was like, oh, he's going to turn on him. Like, I've seen a bunch of these movies. That's how it always goes. But seeing him actually turn and say, I was in love once, and defend him it was actually like a really heartwarming part near the end there. Though I will say that scene where he kills them, because the movies are, and I feel like that's the only scene where anything necessarily R-rated happens. When Doc blows their heads off and he gets run over, that, because I was thinking, watching it last night, I was thinking, I can't remember any other parts of this movie. I'm like, oh yeah, that's why it's R-rated. But
Jamie Foxx, bats getting impaled probably too.
Oh yeah, that too. But yeah, I feel like it being R-rated honestly was a little unnecessary. I feel like a lot of that stuff could have really been edited around to keep it PG-13 if they had wanted to.
Yeah, they really could have.
They didn't need Buddy's character to run over Kevin Spacey twice.
yeah.
That was that was, though. I loved how it did make me like, geez. And it kind of showed just how reckless these guys are with their cars too. Not reckless, but like.
That is something Jess said when he was trying to escape during the shootout and he kept crashing into stuff. Jess, my girlfriend, she just says, if he drove less recklessly, he'd be fine. He would have gotten away.
It is true. Like if he just was driving normally,
he's just in a Walmart parking lot slamming into car after car.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he just drove normally, the police would probably have thought like, oh, that's just a person leaving,
They did that the whole movie. I noticed that, like Kevin Spacey would just peel out of a spot, and when they like in the beginning they all jumped into different cars and they all peeled out. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
Just play it cool, man.
Play cool, guys. Play it cool.
But all in all, going back, this was, like I said at the beginning, I think a movie that I really enjoyed the first time. Second time, I don't think it hits quite the same. I think because so much of it is listening to the dialogue and listening to the music, and once you sort of know where that's going to go, it doesn't really resonate the way it does the first time through. But still an enjoyable movie, still a very cool movie. I think it aged well outside of the Kevin Spacey aspect. But overall, it was fun to go back and give it another watch. And overall, I enjoyed it. Tyler, you get the last word because you're the guest. But Andy, what were your overall thoughts going back on this one?
Yeah, kind of like what you said. I really enjoyed it first time around because I thought it's so unique, and I still think that. But yeah, once you kind of see it once, you're kind of like, yep, I remember this. Cool. But I do think like the music stuff I didn't really notice last time, like Tyler said, with the actual like bullets being shot to the beat was pretty. I mean, you don't see that in any other movie, so that was definitely pretty cool. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, you know, not quite as fun as the first time around, but still a fun time.
Yep. Absolutely. And Tyler, last words on this one. How do you want to put a bow on this one?
Well, the things that are really strong are really strong. I think the stuff that's not, there's nothing necessarily bad in my opinion. It's just stuff that is kind of like it's a typical to that kind of genre. But I do really love Edgar Wright's style on the action, the how clean the visuals were on the stunts and the choreo, and to the music especially. I say like that style of his, which I mean, I guess Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead could kind of be considered action, or World's End, but I think you really get to see it like in full force here, and I love that part of it. And I do love there's a lot of good funny quotes. But yeah, I would say it could have benefited from maybe being shorter. Because like you had said, there are a lot of scenes that kind of felt redundant at some point, whereas, like, okay, we've been hitting this note for a while. We could move on.
Yeah, I will. And again, I guess just add into the beauty of this movie, I think for me, besides the music, is the characters. Like every character is interesting. Like I said, I would be totally down to see a sequel. It's funny, even though I'm saying it's long and things felt like they were drug out, I'd be totally down to see
Baby Driver
more
2.
of these characters.
Which, if I remember correctly, I think Edgar Wright has said this is one of the only, he's written a sequel for it. And I think that's one of the only movies he's given like the sequel treatment for, but I don't know if he said if he plans on actually developing it at some point.
You know what I think too in this movie, they get away with like kind of cheesy dialogue. I was just thinking about the bananas, how he's like, I didn't hear them say bananas, so I knew something was wrong. And then later she says like, this is bananas, BANANA, whatever that line was. I'm like, yeah, that works. Because like they're able to pull that stuff off.
There's something about when you're like these cool characters that you say stupid stuff and it works because you're a cool like it happens a lot in like Quentin Tarantino movies where it's so cool. But like if someone actually said that to me in real life, I'd be like, okay, cool guy. What are you no, who talks like that?
In Kill Bill, she says like tricks are for kids or something. And you're just like,
so there's that funny self-aware moment when Darling gives that speech to Bats and he was like, oh, that was some Oscar-worthy shit. Did you rehearse that? Like, so there is a little bit of self-awareness, I think, to some of it. The way they all talk hard very intentionally to come across as criminals.
Right. But yeah, the only thing holding back a sequel though, everyone's dead except for Baby. Like who? I mean, I guess Griff is out there.
Yeah,
Joe.
Supposedly, yeah.
Roam in the streets. Joe. I want to see Griff and Joe in a buddy
busting Baby out of jail. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I wanted to ask about Joe. So I didn't even realize that he brings him to some like senior home. He can't even bring him inside. Like, are they not open?
Kind of like dropping him off like outside the hospital almost. Like
I was kind of like, can't knock on the door.
It would be funny. Joe's like knocking on the door, like trying to get in. And we're closed. Come back tomorrow.
It's not even a senior home. It's like some rec center or something.
Or he can't talk, so there's like, what is it? Hello.
Maybe the sequel's Joe finding love in the retirement home. Who knows?
Oh, there we go.
It has nothing to do with babies or driving.
Nothing.
Just Joe trying to pick up chicks.
Oh man.
So Andy, I'm very curious. This is where we play a little game. 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. We're going to see if Andy can connect someone from this movie to Kevin Bacon. I'm actually interested to see who you pick and how you get there.
Kevin Spacey was in 7 with Brad Pitt, who was in Sleepers with Kevin Bacon.
No, that was too easy. I totally forgot he's in 7. I mean, he's a main character, and I don't think of him when I think of that movie. But That was too easy. We'll have to make it harder next time. I think next time it will be very hard because next show we're going to 2018 to chat about Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
And then we go to 2019 for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and 2020 for Tenet, which I am terrified of trying to break down because I've not seen it yet. But everyone tells me it's the most confusing movie in the world, and I have to write notes for it. So I am very worried.
I haven't seen it yet either.
But I think I actually already have a way to connect to Kevin Bacon from Into the Spider-Verse. But we'll save that for later. That does it for this episode. I'm Jack Farmer. You can find me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. And that's where you can see all the stuff I'm working on. Andy, where can the world find you and all your stuff?
You can find me at Just Andy Rossi.
And Tyler, thanks so much for joining us. It was a blast. If anyone wants to follow you and check out your life, where can they find you online?
You guys can find me on Instagram at tboxart. Post some of my artwork. I'll be posting some storyboards and original stuff up soon. So yeah.
Very cool. Everyone make sure to go check that out. That does it for us this time around in our review of Baby Driver. Once again, like, comment, share, subscribe. Leave a comment letting us know what you thought of the movie and what you thought of our review. Do you agree, disagree? Do you have any answers to the questions that we raised? Let us know in the comments.
Is Buddy still alive?
Is Buddy still alive? Yeah, because we didn't see the body. Unless you see the body.
There could be a sequel.
They're absolutely good. Darlene could still be alive. I almost called her Darlene.
She has half the gumption that Buddy has, and yeah, probably.
Yeah. Darlene seemed like a quitter after Buddy. But that does it for us. We'll see everybody next year.